And of course, I think the name of your group explains what it is. Silence is violence, meaning that if we don't speak up, we're going to have more of the same. Is that generally what that name of the group means?
Does that also refer to the fact that people seem to refuse to be witnesses, to stand up as witnesses when they've seen a violent crime, and they're too afraid to speak out?
It does.
That's where silence contributes to violence, does it not?
It does, and we, in everything that we have called for as an organization, every call that we make upon our city leaders, we try to make a call upon ourselves as well. Mm-hmm. So it's not enough to simply make demands upon the leadership, but we must also make demands upon ourselves as citizens and as a community. And yes, silence is violence is a very specific call to speak out against crime when we see it in the streets, to witness to crime, to participate in the criminal justice system in that way.
Have you ever done that yourself? I mean, have you ever
well, I guess fortunately I've not witnessed a violent crime myself. But you know, it is a frightening proposition to step forward because there is such a lack of trust in the communities, lack of trust in the criminal justice system and law enforcement, that there's a very justified fear that speaking out can lead to retribution, can lead to harm to one's own person. So silence is violence is a call upon citizens to speak out, but it's also a call upon our leaders to be much more present, much more vocal, and much more active in protecting us. So it does have both a specific meaning in terms of witnessing, but also a much broader meaning in terms of vocal and sustained engagement in the problem of public safety.
One of the problems, and I don't know where to place the responsibility here, is I had a friend of mine who witnessed a street crime, reported it. There was an arrest made, and he started getting phone calls from the relatives of this person, including the mother, threatening his life if he didn't recant his testimony. Now, does that mean that the city is not providing proper protection or backup or safety for witnesses? Is that one of the problems here?
Yes, it does mean that. So, there really is inadequate protection of witnesses in the system right now. It's something that's being addressed by the Department of Justice. The United States Department of Justice is trying to step in. In fact, they have secured funding for victims and witness assistance agents who will come help the parish district attorney.
So there is help available, you're saying,
witnesses.
For the witnesses.
It's coming.
It's coming. Okay.
It's in the works, but it is a very frightening situation in the streets right now, and it's a self-perpetuating situation because the criminal justice system at present is not succeeding in bringing crimes to the point of prosecution. Therefore, many citizens feel that the only justice available is street justice. So then you make it more likely.
I have friends of mine who say at least it's just the drug dealers knocking each other off until somebody like your friend gets killed. And I didn't know she was dealing in drugs. I mean, they have to be in the denial to understand that it is going to affect them. Well,
I mean, there are many problems you raise. One is that it's not okay for a drug dealer to be murdered. The drug trade in the city is sustained by many more than the individuals who are peddling the drugs on the corner.
Right.
It's sustained by a lot of the same people who are so indignant about the drug trade itself and so dismissive of murders that occur amongst drug dealers. Those same people in many cases are purchasing the drugs and sustaining that trade.
But they don't see any responsibility.
So it's not okay for a drug dealer to be murdered. No murder is very much part of our of the principles behind silence is violence, that every murder is a tragedy. Every victim has a mother, a sister, a child, a godparent. And while it's true that some citizens may put themselves in more dangerous situations, may take greater risks, and may not take responsibility for their own safety in the way we would like.
He used a phrase that I hear used every now and then. You said, murder of innocent people, as if somehow murder of guilty people was excusable. I mean, it just slips into the language.
I see a difference. I do see a difference.
You see a difference.
And and if two drug dealers are fighting over territory, I'm not that concerned as you are. But if they break into someone's home and kill you, and
But
it's a
what she's saying
stranger,
is it all goes together.
it's still a murder. But let me ask you, when you talk about the deficiency of the criminal justice system, we're talking about the police department, the sheriff's office, the district attorney's office, the judges. And so you're asking all of these entities to get better, if I understand this correctly. What sort of help and cooperation and understanding have you received from each of those different parts of the criminal justice system?
Well, I have very good communication with the relatively new Violent Offenders Unit at the District Attorney's Office. That's headed up by Bobby Freeman. And notoriously, of late, the Violent Offenders Unit has been losing attorneys. It's a body of very experienced, very highly qualified attorneys who specifically were brought into the DA's office to prosecute violent crimes and who very recently were given all murder cases in the city. However, that unit was not given sufficient resources, sufficient support staff, was really so overworked that attorneys have been leaving after a matter of weeks on the job. We, Silence is Violence right now is working with Mr. Freeman and the Violent Offenders Unit, and in fact, as of this past week, we have loaned that office, the Violent Offenders Unit, an administrative assistant who started working 1 week ago directly with the directly on murder cases in support of the violent cases.
When you're saying we have loaned the Silence and Violence
Silence
group,
is Violence, right.
And you are paying that person's salary,
Right.
And what is your source of income?
Donations. We have a couple of small grants from organizations interested in criminal justice, and also we've had a number already and are seeking further sponsorships of this assistant on a weekly basis. It costs about $600 a week. So a business or a neighborhood organization or a couple of anonymous concerned citizens have come forward to say, I'll sponsor a week. It's not a permanent situation. This is a temporary stopgap solution to an urgent crisis in the criminal justice system where we saw an opportunity as an organization to support something we think is important, which is very highly qualified attorneys for murder cases. The City Council is aware of this program we have and has promised to work diligently toward a permanent solution, which would be a city-funded, long-term support staff for the Violent Offenders Unit.
Are you getting that same kind of support from the mayor?
We don't have very good communication with the mayor. I found him to be not very communicative, to be not very engaged in the citizen activism that's occurring on really so many levels in the city.
Well, you're not alone in coming to that conclusion.
Yeah.
What about the chief of police? Are you getting good support there?
Yes, I do have good communication with Warren Riley, and it's no secret that the NOPD is very deeply challenged right now. There are a lot of shortcomings in that department. However, I believe it's a department that is trying to do better, that wants to do better, is trying to do better, and that we can work with.